Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank all of my patron supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me and what I'm doing. Big shout outs to my senior producers, especially. We have Ventus Official and my parents, my mom and dad. Love y'all. Thank you for your support. Today, I'm very pleased to have on so I don't want to butcher the last name because we already found out that I'm very not good at mimicking a Spanish accent. But we have Carlos joining us, who is now famous for introducing Slippi Wrapped to the Melee community, being able to see not just, oh, this is a basic breakdown. I think it gets really specific. It's a really cool page. If you have not somehow heard of this already, you can go check out at Carlos Marah on Twitter. You will find that in the description of the podcast or video. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, you can put in your Slippi files and you'll get a basic breakdown and then some more specific details on what was your year like in 2022 with Slippi, not just direct, but also unranked. And this will be one of my first questions to you, Carlos. Thank you for joining me. Does this program work with the ranked files as well? How does that work? That's my first question.
Yeah, it does. It's internally, the both types of files are the same, so it works flawlessly thanks to Slippi. Like, they did most of the work, and in that sense, I don't have to do anything. So that's great.
So I'll also get to a more basic question. You're over there in the Central European time zone. I don't want to. Oh wait, I already did say Spanish. So you're coming out of Spain. Thank you so much for joining me. What's it like? What's going on over there right now?
Do you mean in the Spanish scene, in Spain in general?
However you want to take it. I'm interested in hearing whatever comes to mind for you.
I'm doing great. I love Spain. Spain is awesome. We have great food, great everything. So come to visit us if you want.
How about this? Argentina winning the World Cup yesterday. Was that a joy for you to see that because you didn't want France to win, or how did you take it?
Yeah, that's the real. I don't mind Argentinians winning. I'm happy for them, but I do want Frenchmen to lose. So I'm happy. That's a joke. It's a joke, but like you must know, Spaniards hate French and the French hate Spaniards, and that's how Europe works.
In my limited knowledge of European history, I mean, I would have studied things like Joan of Arc or the rivalry between Britain and Spain through the hundreds of years where they've been connected to each other. And then Spain as well, of course, also with the imperial age, everybody trying to spread out and expand on their empires. Yeah. So I'm reading all of this and I'm going, what happens when you go down the line to 2022 and no one's done the over the borders fighting or it's, to my knowledge, I haven't read of anything past World War II of actual direct conflict. So instead we're settling it at the Olympics, or we're settling at, for the World Cup.
Yeah, whatever.
So how far do you go with making those jokes, right? Where you talk about, oh, you guys are like the worst team ever and we're going to win the World Cup. And it's because, you've been a terrible country for 1,000 years. Like how far does the trash talk go?
It goes somewhat far. Some people can be really, really hurtful. I think like every country hates its neighboring country, and also we may love them. Like we love Portugal. Portugal is right beside Spain, right to the left. But they may hate us because we're neighbors. But if a Frenchman comes into the conversation, then Portuguese and Spaniards hate the French. And if, maybe if an American comes into the conversation, the Europeans hate the Americans. So that's how it works. And the French, they're like in the center of Europe, and the Germans too. And I don't know why, just everyone hates the French. I don't know why, I seriously don't. And the Englishmen too. The Englishmen come to, from the UK, they come to Spain for vacations and stuff, and they always get super drunk. And the joke is the Spaniards also hate the British.
I would also say that didn't help when they left the European Union, right?
No,
the whole Brexit thing. I remember.
It really, really didn't. No. But I'm just joking. I mean, I love everyone I've met from outside Spain. They're great. But I need to keep myself to the jokes. I need to make them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. It's yes, all friendly bantering. No one's actually trying to We're not trying to start a real diplomatic discussion. Okay, we're actually here to talk mostly about Slippi Wrapped. So I'm interested in hearing, first of all, how you got into Melee, and we can lead into when you started to tinker with the cogs behind the machine. Because at first you're looking at it from the front, most of us anyway. Oh, well, what about this? Did you get into Melee because you wanted to mod it at first, or how did that first happen
No.
for you?
I got into Melee through Brawl, like about 7 years ago, maybe. I'm a bit of an old school player, old school for Spanish standards, because I'm one of the oldest active players now. And I played Brawl originally with some friends of mine. I think this is super common. We found PM, which is awesome. I love PM.
Yes,
And at some point, in fact, I hated Melee. I didn't like Melee at all. And because it was like super, when you start playing Melee and the buffer or the lack of buffer is like super annoying and everything feels super weird. You always get stuck at doing stuff. And I don't know why one day we just said, okay, we'll play Melee. I think we just started watching tournaments and stuff, and the hype got to us, and we just started playing Melee. And this one's, about 7 years ago, so a pretty long time. And I don't know, I've always played with friends of mine, and then I met the Spanish community as a whole, which is awesome. I really, really like it. And they were super friendly. Like, I think the reason I stuck with Melee was because I loved everyone I met. It's super, super nice.
That's really cool to hear that it was not just a matter of the game winning you over, but when you started going to tournaments, the community as well. Most of us know Triff, but who else do you think of when you think of Melee and Spain and the community that lives there?
There's not much. Like, the gap, we may talk about this later, but the gap between I'm the second best in Spain, or maybe third now, more or less. But the gap between Triff and I is enormous. It's just completely insane. And playing with him is like, it makes no sense. He's just so much better than I. I love it. He's great, and he always plays. Have you ever played Triff? No, I don't think so.
No, but okay. So one of my favorite things about Triff, other than the Peach, is also the Falco. Just like refusing to refusing to let the Falco go.
Sure.
Gotta play Falco as well. I love that.
Yeah. His Falco is horrible, but I like playing it. But many people don't, because it's like super laser heavy. And I don't know what I was gonna say.
About Triff's playstyle, maybe?
Yeah. When he plays free plays, he always gives it his 100%. I don't know. When I play free plays, I'm like maybe joking and having a drink or talking to you or whatever. He doesn't talk. He plays like 5 straight hours of Melee, super serious. He beats you like 100 first stocks in a row, and it's okay. He doesn't move an inch. He's terrible. Terrible and great at the same time. And actually, I went to a tournament like 2 months ago in Barcelona, and it was I won my second free play ever against him in like 7 years. I've known him for maybe 6 years or so, and I've only taken like 3 free plays from him, and 2 were on this tournament. So he's a beast. He's super good. And then you were asking about known Spanish players. You probably won't know them, but K12 is a super famous old school DK and Samos. He used to play much more like years ago, and now he's semi-active. And we did have a super famous players known as Straw Hat Dahin? Straw Hat? Not ringing any bells?
Not ringing any bells, but I'm not as old school as most people in Melee, so it's cool. I always love hearing old names come up. I mean, when I was talking to Marco, who I almost call Carlos since I'm talking to you. I was talking to Marco, who he goes by Oates, and he's talking about this program that somebody had written for reporting matches and running a bracket before people started using Challenge. This program was written for All Is Brawl, and I never used that website, but that's a throwback, right? I mean, most of us knew about it at the very least. I just never used it. That's all.
I love that kind of stuff. Like I love old school stories. I live in Seville. I don't know. It's in the south of Spain, and the scene here is pretty small. And recently, a super old school player came back, and he has like a ton of stories, and I just love it. It's super fun hearing from people who played like 15 years ago. I love it. It's really fun.
And it's cool to see that it's cool to see them come back, because they'll play in such a way that reminds you of what the kind of Melee that you watched when you first got into it, because the first kind of Melee that you would have watched was not Mango versus Zane.
No.
It was Mango versus Armada or Mango versus Mewtwo King. It was that far back. But because of the game having such a rich history, everybody that comes out of old school has amazing stories.
Yeah. And I think something you may find interesting is how different that kind of experience is in Europe or maybe in Spain rather than in the US. Like in the US, you have maybe some local player who's played against Mango, or your top players have gone to majors and stuff. Here in Spain, that won't happen. We have Triff, who travels to the US, and no one else. Like maybe a couple of players have gone there for one tournament or whatever. So we're much more isolated, and especially you don't have 100 active players in a city. You have like 10 or 15 maybe if you're lucky. So it's much more different. And I'll talk about it a bit later, but when I started seeing top players use Slippi Wrapped and stuff, it was like being starstruck, you know, like these super top guys who I never ever dreamt would hear of me. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
They're using my site and getting to know me, and it's super weird. I don't know. I think that kind of experience is really different in Spain and in the US. Or when I say Spain, I mean France or Ireland or somewhere other than the US.
Right, in Europe in general, because there will be tournaments like Fate or Air or HF LAN. I really wish that there would be more international from the US people going to go to that, because HF LAN seems like a really well-run tournament. I mean, do a lot of Spaniards get the chance to go to HF LAN at the very least?
A few years ago, many Spaniards used to go to tournaments, but right now the Spanish scene is in a really weird place where the only really active player is Triff. Then you have a few top level players but who don't travel much, and then a ton of new people. And these people aren't traveling too much to the rest of Europe and not even considering going to the US. So Spain right now, it's only Triff, the one who's traveling to other tournaments. You have the occasional player who goes there. But for example, next year I'm going to Fete.
Fate. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Because actually it's pretty close. Like you take the plane and it's 2 hours away or something. And I wish more Spaniards travel, and maybe they will. I think Mil is coming back in Spain because the pandemic hit us super hard. We were a very in-person community. Like we always like to hang out and stuff. And people still played with Slippi, but at least I prefer meeting in person and playing on a good old CRT.
And especially if you came up with that first, if you got into Melee because you knew somebody who had the game, or if you had the game as a child and you go back to it and you go, oh wait, now I'm playing this with like, a new set of eyes because you saw competitive on YouTube or Twitch and you start playing. And it's fun that Slippi has the ability to get people who wouldn't have tried Melee by not only deciding, oh, I think I'll play this game that's as old as I am possibly, but also having to go to a tournament and find out where that is. It's a lot of steps, and if you just do Slippi unranked or Slippi ranked, you get connected to somebody very quickly, and it helps you. It helps you dive in a little bit deeper. It makes you go, oh well, if they're this many people good at this game, it hopefully ignites the competitive juices. And then you also, like you were saying, at first it was not necessarily the competitive angle be the best in the world, but you wanted to feel that feeling that you could tell was happening when watching the game. If it feels this good watching the game, and when it gets really hype, what if I were the person doing those really cool things with the controller, with that character? And then the community helps you to stick around, because I mean, by and large, everybody is super cool within the Melee space, and it's awesome to hear that's how you feel about the Spanish community as well. I hope that it does become a thing where it's not just Triff who gets a chance to travel. And I mean, it seems like it's so difficult based on Triff's tweet longer, really, really difficult to travel. I hope that there are more events in Europe that allow or that draw Spanish players to go out to play, and then they get a chance to go up against people like Pipsqueak, and then everybody on the Melee stats page going, oh, there's this new player from Spain who beat somebody like Pipsqueak, or sorry, I keep naming Pip. I feel well, I don't actually feel that bad.
It's okay. But
it's fun to see Pip lose once in a while.
Yeah, it is. He's super dominant right now. He's very, like the number one on the ranked leaderboard, so he's
very, very good player. And a friend of the program. I've interviewed Pip. He's so nice.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, that was great. He's super nice. I haven't met him in person though, so I can't say. But he seems super, super cool, super nice. And yeah, I do wish. I think European Melee has always been. You can't take European Melee with the same mentality as if you lived in the US, because as I said, you can't. It's first of all, it's super difficult to live off of Melee in Europe because you don't have that many events, and every time you wanna compete at super high level, you need to travel to the US, which is much more expensive. But I think it is in a great place because with unranked, we have tournaments like every day of the week. There's a ton of active players and it's super nice overall. So I think we are in a good place. I wish we had more players over it, obviously, but it's not gonna die anytime soon or anything. I think we're doing really, really, really fine.
I sort of picture it as if you are able to use Slippi as a primer to get more people out to a tournament, and then it takes somebody to the time sink of running a tournament itself. Shout outs to all the TOs, of course. That is such a challenge to find a place that's going to work for everybody to go there and to get set up. It's cool to hear it. I was going to ask you, not exactly where you live, of course, but when you talked about going to a tournament in Barcelona, like my roughly in my head, that's southwest Spain, like towards the Mediterranean side, is it not?
No, it's actually the northeast. So just
of course, the complete opposite
American
side.
Stereotype, yeah.
The complete opposite side of the. Well, see, that's the very, very poorly educated American. That's an easy one to peg me for. All right.
Yeah, Barcelona is in the northeast, and I live in the south. It's called Andalusia, my region. And when you think of Spanish culture, you're thinking of Andalusia. Like, do you know flamenco and?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Flamenco is from Andalusia, though it's sold outside of Spain as something from the whole country, but it's 100% from Andalusia. And yeah, the food is great, and like the tourists usually come here to the south. And traveling from Seville, I live in the capital, Seville, and it's not bad, but it's not like the US where you maybe can take a car somewhere else. I don't know. The US is super huge, but if I'm in Seville and I want to go to, I don't know, a tournament, obviously I can go to FED. Well, I can go by car to FED, but that's like maybe 15 hours, I don't know, and through the canal. But it's difficult, and we don't have that many in-person tournaments in Spain. Like maybe one every month or so. So there's stuff, but it's expensive, and I don't know. I want to start traveling more this next year, and actually we have a tournament circuit in 2023. So like some main tournaments through the country and stuff, which is cool. But it's not super easy traveling here.
I was thinking about the European circuit from last year for 2021. That allowed Pip to get invited to one of the summits. I mean, it feels like Pip is perennially invited to go to a summit because of his unfortunate travel issues. But I remember that tour, and there was supposed to be one big event every month, and it was not just Fates. It was other events. There was one where it was sort of. I just can't remember the names of them anymore because it's been a while since I've thought about it. But I remember that Poilon Software was one of them, just like a like an arena style invitational, I think.
Polon Arena, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Poland Arena, yeah. So you would get different things like that. Oh, and shouts out, since we're talking about European people who contribute so much to the community, Poland, that's a great example of someone who put so much into
ton of effort,
sponsoring players and everything. I mean, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame because he put a ton of the effort right during the pandemic. Maybe that's even better because it kept the community going forward. But he put in so much effort and time and money, and the pandemic did hurt him quite a bit. But still, he was super important, and he still is though. I think he's retired now. I'm not sure.
But still getting on the Slippi Ranked. I like how there's a draw for some of the players who might be taking a break and they go, well, I mean, let's see how far it could go right now with these new school players. Yeah.
I love it.
So then when the pandemic hit for you and you're playing Slippi, you're seeing obviously, oh, this is really cool. This is allowing a lot of people who don't get a chance to get together, especially during lockdown. But even after lockdown, there's a place and convenience to playing online that you wouldn't be able to have, even if the in-person part is missing, which is a big deal. But it is undeniably so easy to get up from your chair after you're done, hop into bed, and then that's it. It's not a matter it's not a matter of getting onto transportation and being on the road for 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, spending however much money because you're already out, so you're going to buy food or drinks. There's a difference. There is a difference.
There is. And as much as I love meeting in person and playing and stuff, you can't do that every day, not only because of the money and time and stuff, because you get tired too of being with people. Sometimes you just want to play at home and play unranked and hate on the Falcos and,
in peace, yes, without having to spend as much social energy. Because you're right. I mean, for me, I lean more towards being introverted, so I might be good with a crowd for some of the day. But when I went to Big House in October, that was an event that had thousands of people there to play and to spectate. And the not the hall, sorry, the, what do they call it? It's a big old room. You get what I'm saying. It's a convention center. Okay. It's huge, but it still felt crowded sometimes. Again, because everybody's crowding around the TVs to play Melee, and you have to put yourself into that space and go, I would like to play Melee too. And I realized a day and a half in, I realized I don't want to see another human being for 3 months because I ran out of social energy for sure.
The tournaments are so tiring. Like, I think you spend like maybe 6 hours playing Melee and you feel like you've been running a marathon for 12 hours or something. It's so I love it. I love going to tournaments, but on Sunday I just want to go back home. I'm just so tired.
So then what led you to starting to say, I think I want to do something with Slippi, do something with Melee other than enjoy it and play it and be part of the Spanish community?
So I work as a developer and I've been developing stuff for about 8 years now, more or less. And I've always liked doing projects. Whenever I want to learn something, I try to apply it to something that could be useful for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, it's not just a matter of studying it in a book and then not using it in real life. That's what I hated about school. I would go, well, when am I ever going to need to learn about this? And then I forgot where all the important landmarks in Spain are. So that's my problem. So for you, you're trying to do something practical as well as learn it. Yes, that's awesome.
It's a bit paradoxical because I'm a mathematician, which is like the complete opposite. In math, you learn a ton of theory with no application, more or less. But I don't know, when I develop stuff, I like applying it to things I like and maybe do something useful for me or for anyone else. So I've been doing small projects related to Melee for a really long time. I made a site about 6 years ago where you could put in your Smash GG link or challenge link and would say where each person should play their match. Do you know what I mean? Like this player and this one go play on setup 3 and these other guys go to setup 2. And I don't know, I wrote a ton of one to play a joke game mode. We had a few friends and I, many things. And I think it was in the middle of 2021, maybe more or less, I thought about, seeing your Slippi data would be super cool, but there's no easy way to do it. I saw many projects where you could host a website and run some code, but it was not accessible at all. Like you needed to know how to run that code and what to change where. And this has changed. There are quite a few sites online now which do this. But at the time there was nothing at all. And like I wanted to know, I don't know, my openings per kill or my kill count, my game count. But there was no way at all to do it if you didn't know how to code. So I remember writing down, I should do this kind of project, but I didn't know if it was even possible because I don't want to get super technical, but you can have code that runs on your computer and sometimes you can port that code to a website. But I wasn't sure if this could be done. So I think I finally started working on it in March of 2022. And that was probably the hardest part of the whole project. I took the Slippi code, which they wrote, which is great. It's super, super good. And started slowly. First I had to understand what the hell it was doing. And then I had to port it to the web, which wasn't easy because I didn't know how it worked. But I wanted to learn. It was my main motivation after all. And I think in April, I finished a first version in which you could upload your replays and got like an info dump. But that wasn't fun at all. I mean, I didn't think anyone would use it. And at some point I thought, maybe I could do this like more pretty and people may use it. Maybe me and a few friends will use it. I didn't expect anyone to like it so much. And I think it was June. Yeah, in June, I wrote the first version of Slippi Wrapped, which at the time it was called Milli Wrapped. But yeah, Slippi Wrapped. And it was super, super ugly. Like, I'm not a good designer at all. It was just a bunch of screens with data, super crude, but it was fun. And I said, yeah, I'll finish it at one point. And then November came and I said, okay, I have literally 1 month to do all the rest of the work.
Yeah, because there's still a lot to do, because if it's like more or less info dumping and you go, I want it to be more digestible, so you make a semi-digestible way and you go, well, we're really close, but I'm sure you'll tell me this, it was actually a lot more work than it ought to have been to make it as digestible as it is, because it looks so great. Like, of course you've heard this, but like for myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the easiest thing in the world to do. This is so cool. So to get it there, what did it take to do that?
So as you just mentioned, like my main focus was to make it accessible, as accessible as possible, because I work as a developer and I know how confusing these kinds of things can be for the average user. Like if you don't know, I know everything about the Slippi replays now, but maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even know where they're stored. So I try to make it as seamless as possible. Like you don't have to do anything, just select which folder has the replays. And still some people had trouble, and I understand. Like if you don't know
no,
about
not the replays, the folder, not the replays,
exactly.
The folder.
In bold, super big, the folder.
You don't have to copy and paste 10,000 files in. You just have to do the one folder.
Exactly. And thankfully, my partner is a illustrator / designer / stuff.
That's
so
really cool.
She helped me. Yeah, she helped me design most of the site. And actually, do you know the frog icon who's wrapped in a blanket? She made it, so it's super nice. And yeah, it worked out great. It's like a mix between Spotify and Slippi.gg, like the official website. So I tried to keep a bit of the same flavor, so people didn't get confused, and to keep a bit of the same aesthetics.
Yeah, I noticed that the purple was very similar to Slippi.gg.
Exactly, and the green too is like the frog green. And I thought in November I would just have to add the design and more or less that would be it. Maybe a few animations and stuff, but obviously it was so much more because as soon as I started adding stuff, I was like, oh, maybe I could do this and I could do this.
Yeah.
I could add rewind and fast forward, and maybe I could add this other slide and this other thing and the bar charts, and yeah, you know how it goes. So to keep thinking of new things, and still when I released the project, I had a ton of other ideas and improvements I wanted to make, but I would have never released the site if I didn't say, okay, that's it. I'm not adding anything else.
It's a good thing you got started in November instead of September after all.
Yes, and it was even an even better thing. I started in March with the rest of the stuff because it was a ton of work. Like, I don't know how much, but for sure a few hundred hours. It was a ton of work because I had to learn, I had to do many things. But I'm glad I released it. I'm super happy.
Yeah, you weren't handed a filled-in map. You're sort of like Link in Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, where you're given the boat, and now it's time to start exploring, and it takes 20 minutes just to go from one side of the map to the other. So
exactly,
yeah, and you have to fill it all in if you actually want to know what all is going on.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know if you want to ask me a bit more about the development, or I can just tell you about how the release went, or I don't know what you prefer.
You can talk about release. You can talk about, I mean, if there was more to add, I don't want to trivialize 200 plus hours of work and go, okay, that's great, Carlos. Let's ignore that now. If you wanted to mention something else, by all means, you are welcome to.
I don't think I do. There's something I want to mention. I hope some people are willing to help me for next year, not because of the workload, because I enjoyed every minute of development. I had a ton of fun, and I never did any of this for the final product, but rather for the whole process. But I want other people who can teach me, and maybe I can teach them too, and especially some more designers and some people who are willing to put in the time to make it great. I don't know if you get me, but I want this to be a collaborative effort.
Yes, I hear that's what you're saying. That's really cool because, and this is sort of like the sequel thing, and we're talking about it now, so let's talk about it now. We don't have to talk about it at the end. That there's this very clear proven success. A lot of people used it, which we'll talk about in a moment. And if there are people who enjoy doing this kind of stuff, whether it's coding or design, or again, there's a couple of different angles you can look at Slippi Wrapped with. So if there are people out there, you might even be listening to this right now, although I suspect maybe not. I had Scar on the podcast a little while ago, and Scar uses he they pronouns, and it's funny because a lot of people didn't notice that until Scar was on the broadcasts with Ludwig and everybody else last night for the Scuffed World
I didn't know either.
and I thought to myself, should have. I mean, that podcast came out in October. Who's the real fan? Am I the... No. Anyway, okay, this is a good question. Carlos, how do you not get all egotistical about the work that you did? Because objectively, what you've done has been enjoyed by so many more people than what I'm doing. So let's not talk about that specific angle. It's just the fact where you know what you did. You know that you did a good job. You even handled, okay, this is most impressive to me when it launched. You handled all the little bugs and glitches and things that were not quite going the way they were supposed to, where you go, no, you copy and paste the folder. Oh, there is actually a problem. All right, I'll fix it. You have to handle all of that as well. So how do you not say to yourself at the end of all of this, I do want to collaborate, instead of, no, this is my baby?
I think a big part of it is my motivation was never to make something successful, or I don't know if you want to call it successful, but famous or popular or whatever. I literally just wanted to make a site, and I'm proud of the work, even if no one had used it. I knew it was, I was proud of it. Yeah, it was good for me, and that's all it matters. But obviously, I'm super happy the rest of everyone used the site.
So yeah,
And
talk about when it first launched. You put out the
yeah,
tweet. I mean, you talked
sure,
about it to the Spanish and European discords, I'm sure, to be like,
exactly.
"Yep,
Yeah.
feel free to share this, you know, like let me know if you like it. Let me know if it's working, that kind of
So
thing."
I think it was 3 days before release. I sent the site to Fisi, and he used it, and he literally said it's quite cool, which was nice already.
Mm.
Okay, quite cool. My first review, and
Yeah, you're
I
floating at
wanted.
that point. Your feet
Yeah,
aren't even
it's
on the
like
ground.
okay,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, this is more than I ever hoped for in some sense, and I wanted to know if he was okay with the project because a lot of the code is still from the Sleepy team. Like, I did a ton of work, but the underlying code and work is all theirs, and that's super important. And he was okay. Okay, that's great. I wasn't gonna release the site. I think it was on a Sunday or on a Monday, but then all the Panda and SWT and everything and Nintendo drama happened, and I was like, okay, no one's gonna see the site or my tweet amongst all this chaos and news and stuff. So I postponed it and released it on a Tuesday, and it was almost close to not saying anything because I I don't know self conscious, but I didn't want. I don't know.
There's a little
I
bit of
had
a feeling in your throat. You're going, wait, do I actually want to do this? Because right now
yeah,
it's
exactly.
still close, but as soon as it's out there, it kind of becomes everyone's sort of, you know, a lot of people, like for me,
Exactly.
I put out a podcast episodes before where I go, wait, no, yes, dude, put it out, put it out. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I'm glad you put them out. Seriously. And uh, okay, so before I released it, it was my project, and I had put like maybe 300 hours. Say, if I hadn't released it, then it's okay. But let me rephrase that. If I had released it and no one had used it, I would have felt bad because it's like, okay, I did the effort and I put it out and no one cared, you know? And even if I did all of this for myself, it's still rough if literally no one had used it. So I still put it out, and the first half hour or so, no one used it. Like literally, no one was using the site, and it was, oh my god, no one cares. There wasn't a single visit in my tracker, and it was okay. Well, it was fun. I had a great time. It was a nice project, and I think a few of my friends did use it in a few like in 20 or 30 minutes, and I think the first big person who retweeted it was Fizzy himself, who code retweeted it, and I think that's what started it all. And then it's a haze for me. I don't remember anything. Like I kept getting
Yeah.
DMs, people using it, a ton of bugs, and it was insane. I stayed up that day until up to like 5 a.m. I was awake for I don't know 30 hours or something. I was super tired and I didn't have a single second to think and to process what was happening. So especially when the top players started using it, like Aklo I think was the first one who used the site, and he gave me a shout out and said it was super cool. And I almost didn't feel anything because I was still trying to fix a thousand things that were going wrong. And to be honest, it went much better than I expected in the technical sense because I wasn't prepared for that kind of attention. Like it was a small project that maybe a few people would use in my mind. And at the end of the day, it was, I think I had 10,000 users. And I think none of them found a completely unsolvable bug or something that destroyed my server or anything. So it went really, really well in the technical sense. And yeah, I think when I went to sleep at 5 a.m., every super big bug had been fixed. And when I woke up is when I finally said, okay, everyone has used it. Like I saw HBox, AMSA, Plab, IBW, everyone had used it. And it was super, like a bit surreal. I didn't believe it at first. And I think I still kind of don't. Well,
Oh yeah.
sometimes I stop and think and say, oh, wait a second. These people used my site and it's super nice. But yeah, then you ask me how come I'm not egotistical about the whole project or anything. Yeah, I think it's because I honestly and sincerely want to help the community and to motivate players to keep grinding. And something really liked is seeing people say, "Oh, I had like a 43% win rate this year. Next year I'm going to for 44, maybe as a joke or whatever." And that's what I want. I honestly want people to keep playing, to keep grinding. I want them to save their replays for Slippi Wrapped 2023. And yeah, I'm super happy in a sincere way, I think, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, I think even before I asked the question, it's not like I predicted correctly
Of
what your
course.
response was going to be per se, but we were talking about the Spaniard community playing Melee and your desire to see that continue to flourish, and for the people who are playing to feel motivated to continue to play, to go to even if there's only one tournament a month and it's on the other side of Spain, and you go, well, maybe we can figure out a way to make it work, kind of a thing, and you want that to grow. It makes sense to me that you say this will help the Melee community as a whole, because if you can see where you might be having a weakness, for my part, I have since won a game against a Falco. But
Nice.
before, when I put in my Slippi Wrapped files, I had won 0 games against Falco, and I go, that's bad. That's a really bad matchup. Apparently, I can't beat a Falco to save my life. So that's the kind of cool thing where you go, oh, I didn't even realize. Okay, well, that's a clear thing for me to start working on. It helps me make a goal for myself. And Melee, a lot of people talk about, how do I know I'm getting better? And Slippi Wrapped is an amazing way to see, oh, there's several different ways I can look at this and go, this is how I can move forward, because it is hard not to be tempted to call it all intangible or nebulous. You want to just say to somebody, use more lasers as Fox, or crouch cancel more as Sheik. But really, when you see all the stats that you've made for Slippi Wrapped, it makes you go, oh, my openings per kill, or average KOs percentage. It's super cool to help you go, and this is how I can fix that. And it helps. Exactly. It really helps you connect those dots yourself. It makes you feel really good. I think in theory crafting.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think one of the best stats in that sense is how you did on each stage. And like it was a surprise for me when I saw, I think like Dreamland was my best stage and Yoshi's my worst. So that maybe says, okay, I'm good at maybe playing neutral or being patient or a longer distance. And I'm bad at Yoshi's where tech skill is more rewarded and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice. At the end of the day, Slippi Wrapped is not a joke, but more to entertain. But I think you can extract some truths about your play, and about yourself in that data.
And I think that because, again, it's presented in a way that's, I mean, it looks really nice. So it's not just, here it is. I mean, again, it played a lot like I'm looking at Spotify Wrapped and I'm going, sure. And the vibes are very similar to what Slippi Wrapped does. And I go, it's crazy that you and the few people, you're talking about, your partner helping out as well, to make this all happen. It looks, again, and I say this about Fizzy with running the Slippi project in general, how is it just mostly one person with the help of others doing that, instead of a team of 30 people who are all being paid somewhat reasonably to do this 24/7? How does the Melee community consistently make everybody else look like a joke, or at the very least we have people like you, Fizzy, and then in the player sphere, these talented players, and then people like Homemade Waffles and Scar and Toph and Phil, like we're the people who are at the top of the scene, who are the front facing, the people who we all recognize the most, are not just there because of happenstance. They're there because they're genuinely talented. I would love to see Homemade Waffles and Phil go to commentate a real wrestling
Yeah, me
event
too.
or a real basketball game. Could you imagine Brandon Philp commentating the Warriors versus the Lakers? That would
I would
be
love it.
so fun to
Amazing.
watch that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to compare myself at all to the people you mentioned, but some of the comments I received, which made me super happy too, were the ones that said, "Oh my god, like the Melee community once again comes through with a great project or whatever." And it's true. Like there's so much passion in the community, and yeah, you may be paying 5 people, however much, to do a site, but at the end of the day, I think like the Melee passion is irreplaceable in some sense, and a lot of the projects people are making are super genuine. Like I don't know, you see Sleepy and you know Fizzy lives for it. He loves what he's doing and he understands how important it is, and he's putting everything he has into that work. Or Uncle Punch and whoever else, like they live and breathe Melee, and that's literally irreplaceable. And once again, I'm not comparing myself to them at all, but yeah, it's more or less the same. If I didn't love Melee, I wouldn't have worked so much and so hard as I did on the project.
So before I cue you to share some of the stats that you want to share from like a general sense of what you have, I want to make sure anything else that you wanted to talk about with the releasing or the where are they now? I mean, you could talk about that if you want to. And we did talk about the sequel. It's a call to action. Maybe someday in 2023, before the end of the year rolls around, there will be a Discord server where it's like, "Hi, welcome to the Slippi Wrapped team," kind of thing. You never know. I wanted to ask you, did you want to talk about the releasing of it, or did you want to go ahead and get into some of the stats you wanted to share?
You were talking about Slippi Wrapped 2023. I think something that you may find super cool, and I'm super excited about this. Using the data I gathered in 2022, I can give a ton of new data or new angles on 2023. Because, for example, I can say, "Oh, I have your data from 2022. You played 200 games last year, and this year you have played 500. That's however more. And you've improved your openings per kill from 5 to 4, and you've started playing Marth 2. And there's new kind of info and new data you can give, which I think will be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. And also, I now have a sort of global understanding of how players are distributed, right? Because I know, okay, like the top 10% of players have an openings per kill of 5, and the next 10% have an openings per kill of 5.2, and whatever. And in 2023, I can say, "Oh, your openings per kill was 4.3. That's like top 2% in the world." And I think that's the kind of data people will want to share the most, because it's seeing yourself at the top of anything is always cool. Like, I think the fact which most people share from their Spotify Wrapped is, "Oh, you're in the top 1% listeners of Bad Bunny, or in the top 1% listeners of AC/DC, whatever." And yeah, that kind of data, which will be available in 2023, will be super nice. I'm super excited about that. And hopefully it will be even better looking.
The angles that you were all talking about just now, it's gonna make everybody go, "Where am I gonna put all my thousands of Slippi games?" But you better save them, because you're gonna really want to see what it's like when you get to the end of the year, how it was, not just for 2023, but also what it was compared to 2022. That is very, very exciting. Well, darn, I have to wait until the end of 2023. But that also gives you plenty of time. That gives you plenty of time.
Yeah, it's that's funny, because it's so far away, and still, like, I want it to be sooner, but I don't, because I know I'm gonna have to do a ton of work. But I'm excited for it.
So with that, do you want to share a few stats that you've accrued, that anonymously? No one's getting dragged over the mud for having a 10% win rate on Yoshi's or anything. By the way, I do better on big stages as well as Fox, not just because of the size. I mean, I like the bigger stages as Fox, but sorry.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, I think that's interesting. And that does say some things about you. Like you may prefer the neutral game rather than the punish. I don't know.
I
just
can't
guessing.
punish super well. I'm a bad player, so I like trying to weave around and see if I can get that first opening leads to an average of 12%, and I go, yeah, that's fair. I just got to win neutral.
That seems okay. So yeah, going to the data, which I have written down here. Just a disclaimer. First of all, I obviously don't have the data of every Melee player in the world. I'm probably really far from it. I would like to know what percent of the active Melee player base did use the site, but I can't know. Maybe Slippi can, Fizzy can, but I can't. So I have data about 10k users, which is not bad. It's quite a few people. And another important thing is that many people did delete part of or many of the replays through the year because they weigh like 20 gigabytes. So I understand. I told everyone not to delete their saves for 2023. So yeah, I have 10k users, which is great, and more than 10 million games, which is
wow.
It's so many games, and like the total playtime I have recorded is more than 2 million hours, which is insane. 2 million, maybe 1 million. Yeah, 1 million, sorry. Which it's
That's
still insane.
A lot. Oh my gosh.
It's funny because the numbers were like super round, like 10 million games, 10,000 users, 1 million hours. I don't know. It's funny. And this may not seem interesting to you, but I found it interesting. Like the average win rate was exactly 0.5, which is nice because if I had more than 0.5 average win rate, it would mean that more top players had used it. Do you know what I mean?
So you're saying that it came out to 50% win rate, or is that what you meant by 0.5?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 50%. Because
that's
obviously,
fun.
if every player in the world had used it, then it's exactly 50%. But I don't have every player in the world. So, and still it came to 50%. So I'm guessing I have a good divide of top and newer players or worse player, if you want to call them, which is, I think it's important to have more reliable data in some sense. And then if you are okay with it, I can tell you which were the most played characters. Do you want to guess maybe on each?
Well, okay, so who the most played character is? It's got to be Falco, right?
No.
Oh my gosh, is it Fox?
Yeah, it is Fox. I was super surprised by that too. I was thinking it would be Falco. But yeah, you have 5 million games with Fox, and then right behind Falco
Wait, you said 10 million games, right?
So, yeah, but in 10 million games, you have 2 players. So
okay, you're also right, yeah.
But it does mean that in 1 out of every 2 games, is that right?
50% of the time, there's at least one Falco on the screen.
Exactly, and one Fox.
Fox. Sorry, my
both
bad.
of them. Like both of them are almost at 5 million. So yeah, 1 out of every 2 games had either a Fox or a Falco, which is yeah, it's a melee, you know. Mm-hmm. And then way below that, you have the third character, which I didn't expect at all, is Marah.
I was going to say Marth. I was not going to say Falcon or Sheik because I think there's a lot more Marth mains out there than we give credit for.
And there are, yeah. And they are super close, Marth and Falcon. Marth was played 2.61 million games, which is quite a bit too, but like almost half of Falco. And Falcon was played 2.45. So Marth and Falcon were played pretty much the same, yeah.
Yep.
Then you have Sheik, the 5th most played at 1.72. And then Jigglypuff at 0.74. So there's a big gap there. I'll publish this data on Twitter, by the way, so in case you want to look it over more slowly. And then, Peach is also super played at 0.7 million. And then there's a huge dip, and the low tiers aren't played at all. Like, they're all... Yeah, they don't have any games. I'm thinking because many people just rage quit or quit out of games with low tiers. Because Kirby, for example, only had 40k games which is very, very little. It's super sad.
Compared to 5 million for Fox.
Yeah, compared to 5 million.
But still, that is still 40,000. You said 40K, right?
Yeah, 40K, yeah. 40,000 games with Kirby.
If it was
Not
one
bad.
person's job just to play Kirby the whole year, you still couldn't play 40,000 games by yourself.
No, well, almost.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Almost.
Almost.
You'll see, yeah. And just so there, it's funny because the game distribution looks a lot like a tier list almost, with Fox, Falco, Marth, Chic, Falcon. No, Fox, Falco, Marth, Falcon, Chic. So yeah, it's almost a tier list of sorts. And yeah, it's fun. Many games. And then going a bit over the records, I want to say, the person who had the highest APM, I don't know who they were, but like a random tag, they had 915 APM, which is, I don't know how do you even have that much APM? And this is over more than 1,000 games. This is an average over many games. Like I didn't include people who had 6 games in any of this data. Yeah, 915 APM is insane.
Yeah, because I think even 500 is like doing pretty good, and 700 is about what I think people like Moki or Aklo are kind of capable of doing. But then nearly 1,000 APM.
It's insane.
Is I mean, okay, Hungrybox uses tap jumps, so that counts. All of that movement on the control stick might just be over exaggerating a little much, because I know he shared his APM at some point this year. Like I'm pretty good. Look at my APM.
Yeah, I think he was the top player with the highest APM, but it was still like 700. How do you go from 700 to 915? That's
2 control sticks. No, I don't know. Yeah. That's crazy.
I don't know. It's way too much. And then going over the people who had the most games, I think I already told you who did, or maybe you saw on the Twitter.
Yeah, I remember who you said. So am I allowed to share?
Yeah, of course, please.
Max Money with over 30,000 games.
It's insane. 35,000 games. It's so much more than anyone else. I knew he played like, I don't know, being European. Apparently, there's a meme with meeting hacks on Unranked, and best of 5 in you and then quitting. So, yeah, he played 35,000 games, which is completely insane. And to put in perspective how much more he played, the second person with the highest game count was 22,000 games, and it was Mech. And it's like Hacks has 1.5 times more games than the second most active player, which
and that game's stopping. That's crazy.
I was super surprised too. Yeah, a ton of top players were missing from many of these lists. I don't know if they maybe deleted their replays or they just don't play as much on Slippi. I'm not sure, but yeah, Mech was the second one, and let me check. I think I have the third one here.
But I know part of that is probably, again, there are people who play enough games who go, all right, delete it. I need the information. Sorry, I need the data freed up on my computer. I mean, I'm thinking to myself right now, can you upload Slippi files to a cloud somewhere, then bring them back down to Earth and put them all onto Slippi Wrapped 2023? Is that how that's going to work? It's the Slippi Wrapped meta that we have to go through
to consider now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope more people do that. Like I know Triff, for example, did do that. He saves his however many gigabytes folder is on Google Drive and stuff. He does that every month, and then at the end of the year, he uncompressed everything and ran it through Slippi Wrapped. So I hope more people do that. Because, for example, I'm super sad that Plap deleted some of his saves. He had the most insane stats I have seen. He has he went over the route on his stream. He had 98% win rate against, I don't know, AMSA. He was completely insane.
That first to 25. I mean,
you could see how it went.
Yeah.
And I wish Plap had sent all of his replays, but sadly he had deleted them. But yeah, maybe in 2023 we'll get even more realistic data, more meaningful data. But it's fun enough. And I also checked who had the highest win rate, but they were unknown players. I didn't know any of them, so I don't know, and it was like, I don't know, 99% of win rate, and it's probably because they played with some of their friends.
Exclusively, instead of
Yeah.
going on unranked, they would just play
Exactly.
direct with friends. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a point I wasn't sure about when developing Slippi Wrapped. Like, should I only have considered unranked games and not ranked, and not direct? Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it does taint the data. It makes it much less meaningful. But I know many people who don't play unranked at all. So I just said, okay, everything goes. I'll consider everything as the same.
Oh, what about doubles files?
I ignore them.
Okay, so they just get ignored. Got it. Mm-hmm.
They get ignored. I thought about them too, but how do you treat a game with 4 players? Or like if you had, I don't know, 7 kills, that may change stuff. I don't know how it would work. And then you also have to consider that internally those kinds of files are different. So you would have had to
That's
add a
pretty
new
much another
processor.
program, basically. That's just a new, like, that's just an
Yes,
entirely new
doubles
thing.
maybe.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I love doubles too, but I just didn't know how to merge both kinds of data together, and that's it.
Well, see, again, call to action. If somebody wants to be part of making doubles
Yes.
a thing, well, then there you go.
Please,
there you go.
Go ahead, contact me, and I'll help you. And then so win rate, I didn't extract any useful information. I couldn't make it work, but I found super funny. Who do you think has the lowest openings per kill? Take a guess.
I would say Zane.
No.
Okay, so is it IBDW?
Zane is to be fair, I don't think Zane used Slippi Wrapped. I think he's the only top player who didn't use the site.
I wouldn't have guessed Zane. I would have guessed Mango, because why would Mango do anything that he doesn't actually want to do?
Mango did use the site, did use it, but he didn't publish any images or anything, so maybe he doesn't want to share the data, or maybe he just doesn't care, I don't know. But yeah. So the person with the lowest openings per kill at 4.18, which is insane, was Wizrobe.
Oh, tech chasing. I should have thought of that. That's awesome. Let's go, Wizzy.
It's, I don't know, I'm happy it came, it was like that. Like, Wizrobe should be the person with the lowest openings per kill, and he was. And the second person with only 4.19, so 0.01 more openings per kill.
Really close.
Really close was Leffen, which is insane too. But it's so right at the same time. Like, they should be the people with the lowest openings per kill.
Leffen playing against a lot of European unranked players, but that's neither here nor there. No, I know that. Okay, well, the one thing I will say, I think that Wizrobe does a lot more direct games than unranked. So I wonder.
That's what I find super impressive, because, like, if I play unranked and I find newer players, I should be killing them easily, more or less. But Wizrobe is playing like the top of the top players, and he still has 4.18. It's crazy, and I think no, I may be making this up, but I think his most played opponent was Amsa. Was it? I'm not sure. I remember being surprised at who his most played opponent was, and he still kept a 4.18 OPK, which is crazy. And the last data I have is about who played the most of each character. I don't know how many names I should be saying, but I'm gonna say a few which either posted them, it's online, or are top players who shouldn't have any issues, I hope. Or maybe I shouldn't say anything, I don't know. So obviously the person who played the most Fox was Hacks. He no doubt about it. And then Falco. Do you want to guess who had the most Falco games?
Oh, it was easily Bobby Big Balls, easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the fourth person who played the most Falco was KJH. I didn't expect, especially because he also had a ton of Fox games. So KJH played a ton of Melee this year. On Falcon, it was Mech, as I said before. Marth, you have Kodorin fourth, And then the fifth player was I Like Turtles. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an European Marth, and I don't know. It's nice to see a European on the top 5.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Then on Peach, you have, is it called B-Bats?
B-Bats, let's go.
B-Bats. They play the most Peach matches with over 10k, so it's a ton of Peach. And then I found it really funny. The most active Yoshi player was called Katy Perry, which is super fun. Like instead of Katy Perry, Katy Parry, the parry
Oh
to
my
parry
goodness.
the
Yeah,
Yoshi
okay,
move, which is a genius tag. And then the ISIS player with the most games was Nopia, which is, I think, they're also European. I'm pretty sure they are.
So Beat Out Slug and Lunar Dusk, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is Nopia, and they had over twice as many games as the second player, so they play a ton of melee, which is fine. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if I have. Do you have any?
How many Zelda mains are there? How many Zelda mains are out there?
I need to calculate it because, to be completely fair, I wasn't prepared for it. I can tell you that this is completely unrelated, but the most played stage was Battlefield, which is surprising, but not so much. I thought it would be Yoshi's.
East Coast loves Battlefield, especially New York City. So you got a lot of New York City people on the grind, and they love Battlefield. I think I enjoy Battlefield in nearly any matchup. I'm trying to think of an exception to the rule, but any matchup, whatever it is on screen, it's always fun on Battlefield.
Yeah, and Battlefield has, the Battlefield junk, and maybe you don't grab the ledge or anything, but it's fine, it's good. I like it too.
Yeah, when I see somebody do a nice little Leco of Legend wall jump off of the Battlefield wall, which is like so teeny tiny, it's like, let's go. It's super fun to see.
And the least played stage was Fountain of Dreams, which isn't a surprise. Like,
I hate that stage.
I hate Fountain of Dreams with my soul. So
I don't know how to move around those platforms. I can't. I don't know how to do it, and I always feel like I'm stuck in my movement anyway on a stage where the platforms don't move. So, like, I love watching games on a Fountain of Dreams, but it is tough to play on.
I'm sad because I filtered out every game on like weird stages, and maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have included every stage. Maybe next year. I don't know. Like, I wanna know how many games were played in Poke Floats or whatever.
Well, what you can do is have like for April like a little surprise. How were your April 1st games? Because Busy likes to throw on stages like Congo Jungle or whatever on unranked for one day.
I think you'll like it. Do you want to know one of the worst bugs I had to fix, which I couldn't figure out why some people were having the app crash on them, and I was trying everything, like, okay, this seems okay, I'm going through the code, everything seems fine. And then they sent me the replays, and I was looking one by one, like, which one is it making the site to crash? And I found it was Giga Bowser. Like super old replays with Giga Bowser, and the program was saying like, who's this? Who's this guy? He's not anywhere, and the program would freak out and die. So yeah, that was fun and not so much fun. And the same with Wolf, and do you know Akanea build?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. With Charizard and
like
also
volleyball games. Those caused crash too, because I wasn't expecting anyone to have, I don't know, Wolf replays, but maybe I should have.
Well, once everybody started doing it, Kania is fun to play with, so for sure.
It was super fun. I love Beyond Melee and Akanaya build, and I hope they keep working on it. I don't know, it seems like its development has died down a bit, but I hope they still keep pushing it.
I should share with you something that Shiggles posted.
Sure.
Is it underscore? Because I almost wonder if Shiggles did this for you, because it...
Oh.
There we go. Okay, yep, this is the right person. Now let me scroll down here. Oh, yes. Copy link to tweet. I'm going to DM this to you. It is Captain
on
Falcon.
Twitter, right?
It's Captain Falcon with facial hair. Just click on it. I think that Shigbot is trying to make people like you super happy, even if you're not
Yeah, well,
a Falcon
actually,
main.
it's really, really cool. I like it. I love melee skins. Do you know that like the combo counter they made a while ago? Have you seen
Yeah.
it?
Yes, I have.
It's super, super nice. I love it. I use it always.
It's nice to see, yeah, exactly that immediate. It's that immediate feedback. You know, you're like,
Yeah.
a 26% combo.
Yeah.
Like,
To,
'cause
to feel proud when I do the combo and to feel sad when they do the combo to me.
Oh, yeah, that's also okay. You're right. It does put the opponent's combo onto you, and you go, no, not 80%, not 80%. I thought my defense was better than this. So the yeah, were you able to calculate how many Zelda
Actually,
mains
yeah,
are truly out there
I
in the
think
world?
I just finished. So let me check.
Mm-hmm.
This is on. We're doing this live. Let me check.
Because my
Okay,
guess
yeah.
is there are 20 Zelda mains out of
There are
10,000 users.
surprisingly close. There are 17 Zelda mains. 17 Zelda
Wow.
mains.
You have to really search to find them.
You do.
Out of
And you have
10,000 people.
yeah, it's 15 Bowser mains, 15 NES mains. I would have thought there would be more NES mains, but maybe
Yeah,
not. I don't know.
yeah. Me too, because there's at least 2 in Colorado, so, well, that is the Midwest. Sorry, Colorado. Sorry, Hada. I couldn't help myself.
But you should feel proud. If you're one of the 15 NES mains, you're doing God's work. 11 Pichu mains. I don't know. Do you want to ask about anyone else? 2,361 Fox mains. Obviously, the most mained player.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I'm 100% Fox usage on my Slippy so far. I have to get good at Fox, and then I'll
Yeah, I
probably
saw
play
that.
somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. That's the right mentality. So there are the fifth character with the most mains. It was Chic with almost 1,000, and then there's a jump to Peach who only had 376. So there's a huge divide between the top player, the characters, and
Right.
the rest.
Supporting the data of like how the games, the 10 million games supports the 10,000 users. So yeah, that's really cool.
Poor Isis only had 80 players main them. They have fallen from grace. That's all.
But you know, I obviously have mixed feelings on the wobbling discourse because it's already banned, so we might as well not talk about it. But at the same time, can we have at least one tournament out here that has wobbling?
Maybe, yeah.
Because
Once in a while.
I just think that would be so funny for somebody to attend that tournament despite the fact that wobbling is legal, and it would just be funny to see 20 ICs just show up out of nowhere and be all like, so where are all the Fox players? Well, it was really only the ICs mains who showed up, so you'll have to wobble each other instead.
So I'm actually curious, how much worse do IC's mains think IC's become without wobbling? Like they were like about top, like the 7th or 6th best character, and how good are they after the ban? Because they still have handoffs and combos and stuff. So I don't know. I would think they aren't that much worse. I mean, wobbling is free, so it's much easier on the execution and stuff. So yeah, maybe that makes a difference. I don't know.
What I'm interested also in is what do people think about the character Yoshi now? Laud was somebody who came out earlier this year on Radio Melee and declared very confidently to Toph and PPMD, Yoshi is a better Peach, which implies Yoshi is a better character than Peach on the tier list as well. And look, how many majors have been won by Peach? None. Or this year, sorry. When Armada was around, of course. But How many tournaments did Armada win just using purely Peach?
Yeah,
You know what? I'm
I
just gonna
think
set this aside. It doesn't matter.
no,
Armada's
no,
retired.
it's interesting. It's
It is.
interesting.
It's interesting. But Yoshi winning 3 majors now and a 4th unofficial one. It depends on how much you think of that tournament. But they have Mute City enabled, which I was all over. I'm going. This is the best thing ever. I love
Super
this.
on board, yeah.
Let's do this again next month, and we'll have something else legal. Let's do it. Anyway, I'm excited that there's this idea in Melee.
Me too,
22
yeah.
years later, is Yoshi a top tier, or at the very least a high tier character and not a mid tier? And
It's insane.
you have to, of course, put the AMSA asterisk on it, but if AMSA can do it, other people can too, because you used to say about Mango, only Mango can do the stuff that he does with Jigglypuff or with Fox or Falco, and yet there have been other people to be able to not exactly play like Mango, but you might split it into like the Leffen Fox or the IBDW Fox, both very capable of winning a major and replicating the success that Mango has had with Fox. And the same thing with the Marths of old. If Ken can do it, then Zane can do it. So you have to view it from that standpoint. If AMSA can do it, of course it's AMSA. It takes that much to play that character for so long, but that does technically mean that somebody else could do it too. And it's interesting. Who is that person? Is that person even out there right now? And we don't know yet. It's very exciting.
I'm curious. In case you want to know, there are only 116 Yoshi mains, so if you're a Yoshi main, get on that. You need to play more, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds like it's gonna be tough.
Just to add a bit on that point, I think AMSA making it this far with Yoshi not only represents that Yoshi is capable of winning many things, but may make more people play Yoshi and may push the meta even further. So I think he broke some kind of mental barrier or legend, or however you want to call it. Like, he proved it could be done, so maybe now more people will give Yoshi a chance. And hey, maybe Yoshi is top tier after all. I don't know.
It's kind of hard not to argue the point otherwise, because the thing that was always said, well, how many majors has Yoshi won? Well, the answer is in 2022, when Melee is as far advanced as it ever has been, because it's the most recent timeline we've been in, 3 and a 4th unofficial one. So there
it's
you
insane.
go. Over players like Mango and Hungrybox and Zane. It's not just, oh, he only beat one of them. Over IBDW, that's what's really exciting. We'll hopefully get to see more AMSA before he moves back to Japan at the end of next year. I think that was part of it as well, just the lack of having to travel from Japan to the United States and deal with 14 or 13 hours difference. It is much easier when you're in Vancouver. You don't have to deal with the time difference for SoCal or NorCal tournaments, and then on East Coast it's 3 hours. AMSA could do 3 hours.
He's used to it. And I think something I found super interesting and just amazing is, like, a few years ago, I think everyone thought, oh yeah, AMSA is doing great because no one knows how to play against Yoshi, because they have no experience. And so I thought, and I think many others did, when he does move to Canada and when he moves here and he starts going to more tournaments, everyone's going to know how to beat Yoshi, and he's not going to win anymore. And that it's been the complete opposite. He's moved to the US, or to Canada, sorry, and he's beat everyone. He's better than ever. And I don't know, that's completely insane.
Yeah, I mean, I was also exactly like you, but none of us thought that it would be like this when we should have been asking the question, is North America ready for AMSA and not the other way around?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're the ones who are messing around and finding out.
Yeah, totally.
So then to wrap up, let's see. We've been at this a while, so I want to be respectful of your time. Sure. It's also getting late for you as well. Okay. That is something worth considering.
Here in Spain, we have dinner super late, so don't worry. It's still like 2 hours away for me.
2 hours away from dinner time? Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't know this 100%, but isn't there more or less the idea of let's just like chill out this afternoon and we'll get back to it tonight? That kind of attitude?
In Spain, do you mean?
I'm sorry. Let me start from the top.
Okay.
When you go through an average day, is there not a time in the afternoon where everybody just goes, let's stop, rest. We'll be back at it tonight, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's called a siesta. Maybe you've heard it, a siesta, and it's quite real. Yeah, it depends on who you ask, but it's quite common if you take a nap after having lunch. So yeah, that's called a siesta, and it's great. It depends on who you ask. Some people like have the siesta and then they wake up great and with a ton of energy. And I never sleep after having lunch. I never sleep siesta because when I wake up, I'm just completely destroyed. And I turn off my alarm and I wake up like 5 hours later. It's super late. So yeah, it depends on who you ask.
I have to get out of bed.
So yeah, it's harder for us. We have to get out of bed twice. Every day. One after each night and one after siesta. So yeah, we're the hardest workers in the world.
I love that because for me that's one of the hardest things to do every day is to go. I have to get out of this bed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super hard. And yeah, I don't know if you have any other questions about Spanish culture or Spanish melee, Slippi Wrapped, whatever.
Let's see. Oh yes, I did want to ask this because this is a Patreon question from Oates actually. Does Slippi Wrapped have a GitHub? And I know the answer to this question because I researched it, but please, you can answer the question because you know as well.
Yes, it does. It's actually on the site. If you click on there's a link underneath.
At the bottom of the screen. Yep. That's how I found it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I need to update it a bit because right now, actually someone asked me they wanted to help and they didn't know how to run the code locally and how to tinker with it. So I need to update the description to explain how do you use it. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I had to take the Slippi code and modify it a bit to run on web. Do you remember that? I spoke about it. So I took the Slippi code, some of the Slippi code, and modified it to run on a website, on a browser. And the code I wrote was abysmal, was terrible. If Fizzy sees that, he's gonna cry because it's terrible. I just wanted it to work and it worked and I never touched it again. So I mean to at some point get back to it and write it a little cleaner and so that people can help if they want or if they just wanna see how it works internally or whatever.
I'm picturing a circle instead of being a perfect circle, it's like a squiggly circle.
Yeah, a terrible shape, yeah. And yeah, there's a GitHub. If you want to help, just ask me, or if you need help setting it up, or please talk to me. I want more people involved, and I know my English isn't terrible, but I want also like feedback on how to phrase everything on the site. Do you know what I mean?
Oh because yeah, sure. I mean, you might be writing it out and you're trying to make it work for the level of English fluency that you have, and then somebody might come to you and go, "What were you trying to say again?" So
exactly.
Yeah, you're open to hearing that kind of feedback as well.
Yeah, please. I want feedback, even if it's bad, if it's good. I don't care either. I just want feedback in general about anything about the site.
And we did talk about how can folks contribute to the project or learn more about how you put it together. That was Oates questioning that as well. And I think we've covered that enough. But this is something that's interesting that he also asked, and I'd love to hear it from you as well. How long did it take you to get to a functional prototype? You had written it in like 3 big phases where it was the code to a dump and then like trying to make a somewhat functional page for it, and then the November push to actually make it what it is now. So I guess how long did it take? How many hours for the first 2 phases, I guess?
So going into a bit more detail, the first phase, which was taking the Slippi code, porting it to the browser, and making it do something at all, I think it was about a month of on and on work. Let's say maybe 100 hours, maybe a bit less. I'm not sure. That phase was the scariest because at that point I didn't know if it was viable at all, if I could do what I wanted to do at all. So I wasn't familiar with the Slippi code. I wasn't familiar with the Slippi replay format. I had to learn a ton. So if you only want to count the hours I spent like writing code itself, maybe it was 20 hours. But and maybe I think you should consider the whole process, it was easily 100 hours. and I had a ton of fun. It's the Slippi code is really, really well written.
Just even to get to a functional prototype, 100 plus hours.
Exactly.
Woo!
Yeah.
And
It was a ton of
again,
work.
you don't have the benefit of having an idea of this is exactly what it's going to look like. You just know
Exactly.
I'm it starts with the first step, but boy, this could go in a lot of different directions. So you have to not only, again, because you don't know, you don't have all of that in your head of what it looks like now, because you do, and that's great. But at first it was very, let's just start looking at the under the hood and see what we can do
and see what happens. I didn't know what came next at all. I just wanted to, okay, this is the Slippi replays. I like Slippi. Let's just see what I can get out of them and stuff. And I wanted to mention anything and I forgot. Something I forgot. Oh, yeah. Another thing I was super scared about was, and I was very relieved, people like Hacks, who had like 35,000 replays, I wasn't sure at all at the beginning how long it would take to process all of it. And maybe it took, I don't know, 15 minutes, which is what it ended up taking. But I thought maybe this will take 10 hours or 15 hours because...
Yeah, it's like loading, it's like uploading a big file. Like that's 35,000 games.
Like Slippi Wrapped, or rather the Slippi code, the original one, processes every single frame of a game. Like Slippi Wrapped has gone through every frame of every game you've played this year. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of frames. I don't know if this is gonna take a reasonable amount of time. So even the day I released the site, I knew it worked in a reasonable time for me in my PC, which is a reasonably strong PC too. So I don't know, maybe Hacks has a old computer and it takes 6 hours and no one can use it. Or maybe when processing it, the computer dies or the process ends because of whatever error. And
the computer goes, dang, this Slippi Wrapped thing has hands. I'm going to shut down. I need a nap.
I'm not working on it. I need a siesta.
No one would be worse at taking a siesta than you and me. We're the wrong people for that. I got to get out of bed one time, and that's got to be it for the day.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So then I'll my last question then is,
sure,
if you had the ability to invite one player from North America to a Spanish tournament, and it could be a tournament that's bigger than one that you know has been organized.
Okay.
You could make it into a theoretical Spanish major, or if you wanted to keep it to a 20-person local, it's kind of like AMSA going to Vancouver locals in Canada, where there's maybe 30 other people, and AMSA's just there also in bracket. But if you want to make it a hypothetical Spanish major, we can invite one person over because we raise the funds. Who are we inviting? Or if it's just simply, this person wants to come over because we invited them to our 20-person local tournament in Spain.
Okay, that's a super hard question. It has happened a few times that American players come to the Spain for tourism. Like, I know Nintendo came a couple of years ago and he spent the day with Triff, like visiting the city and stuff. So it may happen someday. It's super hard for me to choose just one. I mean, any of the top players would be amazing, like Mango, Zane. If it's a small tournament, I want it to be someone who feels not only like great at Melee, but like a cool person who I can hang out with. And like every time we have a tournament in Seville or in our city, we always go late then to have some beers and stuff. And I want it to be someone who wants to hang out with us. So I think maybe Same's cool enough for that. Mango probably. I don't know. I think every top player would be great. Yeah, I think maybe Sane the most. I would also love to meet Toph. I don't know. I really appreciate all he does for the community. So yeah, Toph, come to Spain and I'll invite you to dinner and buy you some beers.
If I had to pick somebody to go to our local in 717, it would be someone who I would want to see our best players go up against, and then somebody to hang out with during the tournament and afterwards. I'd look at it similarly the way that you do, because of course the melee, but maybe outside of Triff, It would be so funny if Triff beat Zane at a 20-person Spaniard local.
Yeah,
I guess it is
that would be
possible.
hilarious. Yeah,
Triff is really good at Melee.
Yeah, and he did beat him a few years ago. So like at Summit, wasn't it? At Summit,
I think so.
2020
Yeah.
maybe.
And you know what? Maybe Zane wants the run back. I don't know if there's been a run
Maybe.
back.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to.
But I would.
Yeah, but I mean,
love to have somebody like Homemade Waffles, Brandon, to have Brandon
yeah,
over
for
because
sure.
Like Brandon's a great player. I think he would honestly be able to go through all of us pretty easily, even our best players, and then be so cool to hang out with you. You'd obviously be such a cool person to have over to like a smaller size tournament.
Yeah, I think I don't think I played against Homemade Waffles 3 years ago. I think at a tournament in London. He went there and he destroyed me with his dog. Not even his Falco, his dog. So yeah, anyone who came to Spain with a somewhat high level, Triff is the only one who has a chance to win them. And I still love like getting beat up by any top player. I think it's fun losing too.
Yeah, it's fun because you get the experience of being able to say, "Oh, I've watched this person for a long time, but now I get to actually play against them." I mean, it's. I got to play against 2 Saint at Big House. Oh. I'm going, oh wow, this Jigglypuff's got hands, and very grounded too. Just wave dashing in and grabbing me when I thought, well, Jigglypuff can't get over that grab. Like, I mean,
I've seen clips where they take a laser and instantly rest and very weird stuff, which is super, super cool. I like seeing more diversity in the Jigglypuff standard play.
Yeah,
stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's about all I got, because I want to be respectful of your time. We've been at this for an hour and a half.
It was super, super fun. Like time flew by for me. I had a ton of fun. Thanks.
So let's go ahead and make sure that people can find you. Let's go ahead and outro with plugs and shout outs. So please, by all means, tell the people where they can find you and all the shout outs that you want to give, and any last thoughts that you have.
So yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's the only like social platform I regularly use, at Carlos Marah. I think you can find me down somewhere down here.
Yep, description. Yep, that's what you want to look at. Yep.
And in the description too. Yeah. I plan to keep making melee content and melee stuff and coding and that kind of thing. So if you like it, please follow me. But you'll also see like Spanish memes and drunk selfies. So be warned. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right. I had a ton of fun, seriously. Thanks a ton for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. We're going to play the outro, and then we got to do a thumbnail, so stick around for that. But to everybody who joined us today, whether live or in the recording, shouts out to, I saw Z, Mizu2, and the Bell77 in chat today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And then, of course, YouTube and podcast platforms afterwards. Thank you for continuing to listen and support. So we will see you all next time. Let's play the outro and do the thumbnail. I'll be right back with you, Carlos.